I can hear a lot of noise going on in the background, and that can only mean one thing, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a bit of a treat for you on this week's edition of SO Live. In fact, making his SO Live debut. They say video killed the radio star, but in this case, video kind of made the radio star. We are delighted to be joined by the main man himself, Radio Rahim, live via satellite or something similar from Riyadh. Rahim, how's it all going over there?
It's already kicked off. It's not quite as much pandemonium as it was for the undisputed first day kickoff. No one's gotten headbutted. I've seen no blood spilled just yet.
You've been behaving yourself.
Everybody, well, when I say nobody, I mean nobody that we can talk about. No, but jokes aside, the fighters are all very ready. They seem especially intense for this one. They're taking the Matchroom versus Queensberry bit of it quite seriously. They all want to be the one to make a statement on Saturday night and be the standout fight. I don't think that there is, obviously the heavyweights, there's always a special attraction, and we've got two big punchers that's going to get a lot of attention. But as the matchups go, I think it's anybody's guess which matchup we'll be talking about on Sunday morning as having stolen the show. And I think every fighter on the card wants to be that guy. So we might be looking at a really solid night of boxing, maybe even like harkening back to the Fury and Ngannou undercard, which I thought was the strongest card in Saudi so far. Hopefully we get something along those lines again.
And Rahim, you've been doing interviews throughout the day, of course, out there in Riyadh with all the main fighters on the card. Now, we know that those interviews are embargoed as they are for all the outlets until tomorrow, so please tune in to Seconds Out and watch those. But has anyone in particular impressed you or surprised you with their general demeanor, their enthusiasm? Anyone taken you aback?
I'd say Ammo Williams, who is formerly Ammo Williams and now the Tiger King. I'll let you see what that is in reference to after the embargo. I don't know that I can say more, but that's an interesting one to tune in for. And then always one of my favorite interviews is going to be Malik Scott. Like, he's such a solid teacher of the sport of and the science of boxing that I enjoy having a conversation with him. He's candid. He is honest. He is realistic about his fighter, while in full support, obviously, of Deontay Wilder being victorious on Saturday night. He is one of the few that really break it down in every element: the mental game, the physical game, the need for certain types of skills, and then the need to let your hands go, which may have been an issue for Deontay last time out, and get out of your head and just do what you do. So I would say that those two were particularly interesting conversations. But to be honest, everybody who stepped in front of the camera today had a message and was dialed in and wanted to be here and wanted to talk about what they intended to do on the show come Saturday. So there's not a single interview worth missing.
Very good point. We'll go to the chat in just a minute, but one thing I did want to ask you, Rahim, you know Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren pretty well by this point. You've been in Frank Warren's box, of course. I haven't, unfortunately, as yet. But just tell us, from your experience talking to them in recent times, how invested are they in this rivalry and in winning this 5 versus 5?
Well, for clarity's sake, I've been to the football with him at his suite. I've never been in Frank Warren's box. So, that said, I think they are both very much seeing this as a point of pride, as a long-standing rivalry that will get settled to some degree come Saturday night. And I don't know that there's ever been a string of fights that they've each respectively more wanted to win than the 5 coming up on Saturday. And in regard to that, I think it's important to mention that on this show, because it is not only 5 individual fights that are all, really good matchups, but also there's a team element to it, which we almost never see in boxing except in the Olympic style amateur boxing. But as pros, this is just simply not a team sport. We'll have the advantage of looking at the statistics produced by Jabber, which we also saw on TNT Sports Box Office for Undisputed. We'll have those available for the 5v5 matchup between Queensberry and Matchroom. And that's going to be a really interesting panel of analytics and punch stats to not just talk about who won each individual fight in the sense of how you might score a round if you had the factual ability to analyze each round based on accurate statistics. But there's also an overall kind of card you can make for just like team statistics and team analytics and which team collectively you think did better. Obviously, these are going to not be officially implemented into the scoring, but as far as bragging rights go, as far as social media goes and talking points, I think you're going to have some really interesting added elements to how you could view and digest what happened Saturday night.
All right, well, I'm just going to whip over to the chat. I imagine there'll be some questions for Radio Rahim as well as the rest of us. So let's have a look. Mr. S says Rahim looks like he's at a movie premiere. Well, it's almost as good, isn't it? Let's be honest. Maybe more so. Gary says,
well, we are,
right, Radio Rahim will be gone.
Well, we are sat in a theater. I think everything in Riyadh, especially around events this big, is somewhat decadent. So this is not the folding chairs ballroom at the crummy hotel that some might be used to. These are very plush, reclining seats, nonetheless. Let me just give you a little taste of what's possible when you're in the right. Oh man, I'll show you this way.
You get some serious envy now.
Look at that, baby. Come on now. Come on. You know, it's the first time I've ever been able to recline at a press event in style. So, yeah, you're not wrong. That's one of the benefits of being in Riyadh. They hold nothing back. If it makes it more decadent, if it makes it a bigger show, they're interested in doing just that. So it's a swell time. It's hard to stay awake in this seat, to be honest. Like, I want to take a nap between shows.
Please do for the next 5 minutes at least. Gary says Radio Rahim will be staking his territorial claim and lining up first for interviews for sure. Good lad. Gary, if you think that Radio Rahim has to queue up behind the hoi polloi, behind the minions sent by other outlets, you're out of your mind. Radio Rahim is the first name on the team sheet at all these events. Thunder Road says Rahim living the life in the 4 seasons in Riyadh. I mean, you've just seen a taste of it there, Thunder Road. Mr.
Well,
S.
it's only 1 season in Riyadh right now, and it is summer. Let me explain to you all. Like, we are inside, air conditioned, and quite looked after, but outside there, it's boiling. And I expect on Saturday night, that's the only thing that's going to be hotter in Riyadh than the weather. Is going to be the firefight between all of these boxers. So yes, indeed, it is Riyadh season, but it's becoming a year-round event. I think Riyadh season in the sense that now it's the first time I've been here in June, first time I've experienced this kind of heat in the weather. But to be fair, it's also the first time I've experienced this kind of heat on a card where everybody not only wants to win for themselves, but oddly wants to win for the other guy on his team. That's unique, and I think that's going to create a unique atmosphere and experience come Saturday night.
Let's see who else we've got. Thunder Road says, come on, Rahim. No pause was needed there. We knew Danny was talking about Frank's box at the Emirates. I was. Frank's huge, inviting, welcoming box at the Emirates. B Styles says Triple D will beat Jared Anderson. Gary says, can I ask how long do you have to line up for a famous Eddie Hearn interview? Good lad.
All right. We just got some
Radio Rahim doesn't line up, Gary. I think we've already pointed that out. Eddie Hearn queues up for Radio Rahim. That's how it works. Ask him. Jack87 says, does anyone else think ammo is a pound shop Wilder? Now, Rahim, you might not have pound stores over in the US. You have thrift stores. It's not too dissimilar. But basically, Jack87 is saying, do we think Ammo Williams is a lesser version, but style-wise similar to Deontay Wilder?
I mean, listen, the truth is, like, who could be similar to Deontay Wilder, who hasn't knocked out 98% of their opponents? Like, no.
He is back with us now. You should have heard what Eamon was saying about you while you weren't here, Rahim. It was awful stuff. We had to bleep him a couple of times.
Oh, because he said I'm the baddest MFer around?
Yeah. I mean, you're half right. No, but seriously, we're just about to get into our predictions, and I don't know if this is something you're going to want to get involved in because you're out there in Riyadh. So if you pick against someone, they can be pissed off face to face with you, whereas we're safe in our remote status over here. But we're going to start going through the card kind of fight by fight, and I think we'll go from the bottom in terms of lightest weights to the top, and then we end with the heavyweights. But one of the fights that I've said to Eamon before you joined us could be the fight of the night is Ray Ford against Nick Ball. Nick Ball's never in a bad fight, always exciting because of his pressure style. And then you've got Ray Ford, very slick, but won his world title in incredibly dramatic fashion with that last round stoppage against Kolmatov. What do you make of it? If you don't want to give a prediction, that's fine. Eamon and I will stick our heads above the parapet. But what do you make of it?
I'd say that both of these guys having quite a bit to prove. First Ford being the world champion, thinking if he'll admit that he's levels above Ball, and Ball feeling like he was denied a world championship that he earned last time out and wants to prove that he is of world champion caliber and should have a strap around his waist. It's going to make for two guys who feel like they have the punching power to knock the other one out and don't maybe respect as much the other one's skill as they should. So it'll be interesting to me to see who edges it in the sense that they have other tools to rely on outside of their power and grit and find ways to be clever in there and set traps. That'll be the fighter that wins on the night, the fighter who's smarter in there. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the most technically proficient, but you know what adjustments to make in the moment and when to, go on with your shield and when to maybe take a step back for the betterment of winning the round. It's going to be difficult for, I think, either one of these guys to take a step back because of their pride and their real belief that one punch can get them out of the ring with a strap over their heads at any moment. It's hard to then be disciplined and box when you think every punch can knock the other guy out. So I think whoever is smart enough and has the discipline of his emotions and his ego in check to make the right move at the right time will be the one who will be victorious on the night.
Rahim has set the scene there. So, Eamon, it's now down to you and I to make those all-important predictions. I'm going to let you go first. Maybe I'll go first in the next one and we'll alternate it. But who do you think is going to come out on top? And by what method, as we now know, that's quite important in terms of the points?
Yeah, sure. I actually think that this battle will be won and lost on Friday night. The scales are a real important factor for this fight. Ray Ford was kind of honest in revealing the truth about his career decision. He wanted to step up the weights potentially after defeating Kolmatov. A real attritional fight there for him, where if he didn't get that stoppage in the last couple of seconds of the fight, then he was losing that fight to Kolmatov. But it was a brilliant win for him. But I wonder how much juice, or life, I should say is a better word, left at the weight. Now, it's a thing right now that whilst it's great and the fights are happening over in Saudi Arabia, the flip side of it is that fighters are risking more their weight and, the potential to maybe lose it because the money is so great at the weight and the money's there for him. So he's decided to stay here. Can Nick Ball capitalize upon that? I feel that Ray Ford probably, even with that said, might be have the favor here because he's seen styles like Nick Ball before and been able to handle that. That'll kind of play into his hands. So I think it's all to lose from a Ray Ford perspective. So for me, the edge goes towards Ray Ford in this fight. I think he wins on points with some hairy moments in the fight.
So that's 1 point for Eddie Hearn on Eamon's scorecard. I'm going for Nick Ball to grind out a late stoppage. I think he will be of the mindset that he doesn't want to be denied as he was against Ray Vargas. I think he'll start a bit faster, which I'm sure he regrets not doing against Vargas. And I think he'll gradually grind him down. I think we'll see a dramatic finish, just like in Ford against Kolmatov, just not in the way that Ray would like this time around. And then moving up the card, at least in terms of weight, next up is a mouth-watering fight between two unbeaten contenders, I guess we have to say now, that doubles up as a final eliminator as well for the WBC middleweight title between Hamza Shiraz, who crucially is Frank Warren's captain in this event. So if he wins, he will get double points. But Ammo Williams, who Rahim was talking about just now, he'll be hoping to deny Hamza Shiraz and come away with 1 or 2 points for his man, Eddie Hearn. Rahim, first of all, from you, what do you make of this? You've got two kind of piping hot contenders from either side of the pond.
This is going to be a firefight. Like, I think both of these guys kind of the opposite of what I'm expecting to be the difference in the win for the last fight, and that they both have big knockout power. They both come with the confidence that they're going to be able to best their opponent, maybe put him to sleep. But I think it's a matter of letting your hands go. Like, I don't think this is going to be a particularly a necessity for these guys to think differently or be smarter than normal. I think they're both so talented. They both have such big punches that this is going to be just a firefight. Let your hands go, follow your instincts, and the technique side of it is going to come naturally to both. They're not going to have to like think about it or worry about making those kind of adjustments. They're just going to have to see whose talent, whose grit, whose real power prevails on the night. So I think this is one of those one-punch fights. Like, whichever lands the first, cleanest, hardest shot might be the one going away with the victory.